volume knob up a click, shake off that work week, and settle on in. Welcome back to the table, everyone. This is, and I know it's hard to believe, episode 10 of Track and Vector. We are the Star Wars Unlimited podcast that works to cut through that online algorithm noise and focus on some real tabletop strategy, the grassroots community culture we've got here, and of course the material joy of the hobby. As always, I'm happy to be here as your host, Taco Pete. Now, let me start with saying it's been a heavy, chaotic week on the day job radar, but there is absolutely no better feeling than pulling up a chair, flipping on these studio mics, and talking cardboard with all of you. Now, today's flight plan is titled Ping to PQ, and we're going to tap back into that later. But I've got some stories to tell. You know, we just got back from the Florida Planetary Qualifier down at Gamers-Corps. Big shout out to Gamers-Corps. You guys did a great job hosting the event, and we had a great time with you. It was an absolute blast. I was running that. I was about 50 card Bo-Katan Space Swarm list and a room full of competitive pilots. And man, it was pure good times and pure adrenaline. A lot of fun. We saw some heavy control. There were some sharp Imperial and Luke ping decks and of course, some brilliant homebrews there. The weather was hot. The day was long, but in the end, a good time was had by all. And man, that's why we show up in the first place. Now, let's go ahead and open the comm link and check into our new edition of Flight Logs. This is our second run of the Flight Logs component. Most of our community feedback this week came straight from the tournament floor at Gamers-Corps. And honestly, you know, it wasn't what I was expecting. I was pleasantly surprised. Talking to players between rounds, the consensus leaned heavily away from rigid net decking. And I saw that on the tables at the PQ. So many pilots told me they prioritize working their favorite character cards and personal pet combos onto that playmat, and that they're only leaning back into that strict meta math when the tournament pressure just really puts that demand on them. Having said that, I want to give a massive shout out to Sean. He's the founder of Two to Base Team out of Central Florida. Thanks for the stickers, guys. Much appreciated. And man, it was great seeing y'all there. You had a strong presence on the board in general at the PQ. It was fun watching y'all roll in with all your gear. And while there, I had the pleasure of chatting with Sean, talking to him about the process of building out that competitive team, his Kashyyyk Endor leader deck, and his genuine and infectious love for the game, right? And, you know, I say it all the time, but it's conversations like that with real grassroots players, people on the ground, that make these road trips so worth the miles we put on the ride, right? So, speaking of competitive runs, I also want to give a big, huge salute to our friend Tom Sko over on TikTok. Tom Sko had a good time at the Berlin Sector Qualifier, taking down some wins. He was reporting on his channel from the Sector Qualifier floor and keeping us all engaged in that process. So congratulations, Tom Sko. It was some stellar flying, man. And if you're not following him or our own Track and Vector channel on TikTok, be sure to jump over to TikTok and join that conversation. I'll be sure to drop some links in the comments there for you. And competitive circuit, well, you know, all around the world right now seems to be exploding for SWU. The turnout at Sector Qualifiers has been incredible. And personally, I think the pure value of that buy-in versus the exclusive prizing and the community experience, I think it's top tier. I think it's a good trade all in all, right? We've got the Indianapolis Sector Qualifier playing out this weekend. I'm sure there'll be some more reports from the floor, and FFG is doing an announcement today at 1:30 West Coast time, I believe. Can't wait to tune in and hear what they have to say. And this, of course, is going to be followed by some September events, right? We've got a Sector Qualifier landing in Texas, and then another one following up in Italy. So be sure to stay tuned to those. If you're participating, be sure to drop us a line and let us know how it's going. The momentum behind this game right now, it's truly undeniable. It's a good time to be playing Star Wars Unlimited. And That, ladies and gentlemen, is going to bring us directly to the card art of the week segment. One of our newer segments, one of my favorite segments, right? And today we're highlighting the stunning prestige variant of the Arcana star map, Path to Peridia. And this was illustrated by the incredible Stephen Zavala, whom I've yet to meet, but whose card art I certainly appreciate. Stephen, you did a great job illustrating this iconic scene from Ahsoka Season 1. The concept of these ancient star mats, it's been popping up recently in Star Wars lore. We've seen it in the movies, now we're seeing it in the series. So from the journey to Luke Skywalker to this ancient map leading into the unknown extragalactic pathway over in Peridia. It's cool, right? And the art on this card, the composition on this prestige variant, you got that intricate orb in the center surrounded by this mystical galactic projection, and it just translates with some sheer presence, and it looks good when you drop it on the mat. So I'm not using it in any current decks, but I'm looking to work this one in. I just think it's a solid looking card art. So big shout out to Stephen Zavala and the prestige variant of the Arcana star map. Way to go. Solid job on the card. So whether you're running it to double your deck search triggers or just admiring the foil treatment in the binder, this is a phenomenal piece of tabletop art, and I appreciate all you're doing for the game, Stephen. Keep it up and hope to see you at one of these events one day soon. Now, for our flight log prompt for episode 11 of Track and Vector, as always, we want to hear from you, whether it's on the floor of an event, whether it's through the YouTube channel, the Spotify channel, or the TikTok. Just let us know what you think. And I'm thinking for this week's flight log, let's run with the sector qualifier surging right now. A lot of energy out there. What's your threshold for entering the higher tier competitive play? I mean, are you in it purely for the exclusive promo swag and the community road trip, which is always a good time? Or are you chasing that qualification invite to the Galactics? Like, what is pulling you in to that arena? So drop your takes over on Spotify Q&A, or if you're here, leave a comment on YouTube, and then hit us up on the TikTok at Tracking Vector. Coming up next in our Lore to Core segment, we break down the wild new clues from Fantasy Flight's official Riddles from Home article. Found that on the SWU webpage. And then in the Efficiency Engine, we'll unpack our biggest tactical action economy takeaways from the Gamers-Corps PQ. And last but certainly not least, we'll dive into the analog archive. I plan on reviewing some gear that I've run into in my time on the road, hitting up the PQ and the Galactic Championship. So if you haven't done so already, pull up a chair, grab your card sleeves, and let's roll out the mats and talk SWU. Strap in as we jump to hyperspace and roll straight into segment 2, Riddles from Home and Lore to Core. Now, while we've been grinding qualifier points and testing these regional lists, Fantasy Flight Games has dropped a massive transmission on the official channels with the latest article titled Riddles from Home. Now, if you haven't had a chance to read through the designer notes yet, the team dropped a batch of cryptic, fascinating clues about what the new set Homeworlds is going to bring to the table on October 9th. And let me tell you, I think the community speculations really favoring this new set for several reasons. One, we've got the creature features, right? There's going to be at least these 5 new space creatures rolling into it. It's going to bring about more of that organic wild fauna element that directly ties into these new arenas, including the space arena. And this creature heavy focus has got me itching to break out my Kanan Jarrus deck and drop it back onto the playmat. I'll get back into that in just a minute here. We've got a brand new leader unit that comes printed directly with Ambush. And of course, this is going to change how leader development turns interact with the ready units on the table. I think this is going to really add a new dynamic to the game that's going to be fun to grow with. And then, of course, we also have that expansion of base fortifications, where these upgrades, you'll be able to attach them directly to your base and create these physical fortresses, much like the planetary defense shields we saw at Hoth, and of course these resource disruption grids. This is going to change gameplay, what I think is going to be a really positive way. It's got me thinking back, going back to the creature feature comments there. My Legends of Force go-to build was a Kanan Jarrus deck that swarmed the playmat with shielded Spectre units and, of course, a heavy creature presence. And man, it was fun to play. It was incredibly effective in action, and it was relatively a low-cost build. Now I think with Homeworlds coming out, I'm ready to restructure it based on updates with new cards from this new deck, this new set. The base component, the creature feature show, this is really going to make this a fun stack of cardboard to drop out of hyperspace and onto the playmat. So let's go ahead and dip right into the lore to core mechanics here. Now on this segment of the show, we examine how the design team takes decades of Star Wars cinematic history and translates it directly into mechanical rules on the physical cardboard. And today we're going to look at planetary identity and the new biomes that we see coming out and how that may impact gameplay. So in previous sets, planetary traits like Tatooine, Endor, or Kashyyyk were largely static flavor tags, right? I mean, useful for a handful of card triggers, but rarely defining the entire mechanical flow of a deck. I mean, you're always going to have something like Data Vault out there, but it's Star Wars lore, the battlefield itself. I mean, it's always been a primary character in the narrative. I mean, just think about this. Walk back with me for a minute. Right, let's go back to the dense forest moon of Endor, which dictated the guerrilla warfare of the Ewoks against the technological superiority of the Empire. Right, and the little Ewoks ended out coming up on top. All right, let me lock back in here. We also have like the arid, harsh waste of Tatooine, right? And it focused on this survivalist scavenger and well, I mean, eventually even the bounty hunters to leverage every scrap of metal on that desert planet, that hive. I mean, what did the late, great Obi-Wan have to say about it when he was talking about Mos Eisley located on Tatooine? I believe his exact words were, it was a wretched hive of scum and villainy. I mean, these planets have been characters themselves. That's part of the beauty of it. That's what makes it so good, right? And let's not forget the deep Wookiee forest of Kashyyyk and how they represent this untamed raw power, this organic resistance, and before they were pilfered by the Empire. They really connected with the character, the species of the Wookiees themselves. That's all the beauty in Lore to Core. Man, I love it. And I love how they tie it all together. And going back to Endor, I just want to let everybody know my current chase is the Prestige Wicket cards out there. So y'all wish me luck on that pull. I plan on ripping some packs today, posting that on TikTok, and we'll see what happens. So, you know, the world of Star Wars have always been characters themselves. Let's think back again. We've got the brutal climate of Hoth, the ship swallowing swamps of Dagobah. Granted, he did get the ship back, but it was a ship swallowing swamp. The gaseous clouds of Bespin that helped keep Cloud City aloft. And the list, it just goes on, right? There are so many awesome worlds in Star Wars. Wait a minute. Okay. I think I'm changing flight log for this week right here on air. We're going to update that transmission, and here it is. This is what I want. I want to hear what you have to say on the topic. What's your favorite world in Star Wars? And then bonus points if you'll give us some of that story as to why. And even better, tell us how you're connecting it to your SWU deck. I think that's a good assignment for the week, right? So with Homeworlds, the design team is turning those planetary environments into these actual mechanical engines. So instead of your base simply being a 30 HP target sitting in the center of your map, these bases are going to become dynamic territorial strongholds. And by attaching things like fortify upgrades and pairing them with planetary traits, you can tailor your base to reflect the biome you're fighting on. So if you're defending Endor, you might set up ambush traps and creature spawns. And if you're fortifying an Imperial garrison, well, I mean, you're probably deploying heavy defense grids and automated pings, right? So this Lore to Core evolution does something crucial for the health of the game. It broadens deck diversity. right? I think my belief is that this is going to encourage players to build around cohesive narrative planetary archetypes rather than just slamming the same generic meta good stuff pile into every 50 card deck. I mean, I see this rewarding creative deck building. It's going to enhance table immersion, and I believe it's going to give us a fresh tactical puzzle to solve every single game, and it's going to be fun, and I think the buy-in is going to be strong. It actually ties into our flight logs last week in some ways, forcing that creative component into deck building. So speaking of solving tactical puzzles on the mat, how did our own fleet tackets hold up when that competitive pressure was turned up at the Gamers-Corps? So up next, this is going to be good. You won't want to miss it. In the Efficiency Engine, we're going to break down the real-world action economy lessons from the Florida PQ and what the Space Swarm taught us about recovering tempo. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Efficiency Engine. This is where we run the numbers, dissect the action economy, and take a look at the mathematical ledger of our turns. And usually, on a typical day in this segment, I break down a high velocity synergy that crushes the board. But today's going to be a little different. Today, we're going to dissect an absolute live fire catastrophe from the tournament floor at Gamers-Corps. This is a classic everything's fine while the world burns around us example. So you win some, you lose some. And folks, this week in Florida was definitely a loss on the scoreboard. So let's figure this out, all right? Going into the event, I made a classic, fateful, we have all been there last minute tournament audible. I swapped out my leader. I moved in Bo-Katan cries, and I wanted to test this heroism command aggression synergy in real time using Bo-Katan to flood the board with the Mandos, right? And on paper, in the lab, in my head, testing these Mandalorian ping triggers alongside high-speed units, well, it sounded pretty it sounded amazing. But once the tournament clock started and the cardboard hit the play mat, let me tell you, my math completely fell apart. What surprised me most about the room at Gamers-Corps was the meta itself, right? Going in, I prepared heavily for the Cad Bane tempo and those ping engines that have been all over the online feeds. And the ping was there. I got pinged, but not in the manner in which I was expecting it. And on top of it, I didn't face a single Cad Bane all day. Now, as I walked the floor between games, I saw Cad Bane there, but not to such an extent that I fought him in any of my games. Instead, what I encountered on the floor, time and time after again, well, it was this dominated effect of Luke Skywalker, hero of Yavin space fields. People, and I said this several times during the PQ, people came prepped for space. They came ready to wage a battle in space. They had space-heavy decks, and they were certainly ready to take me down in space. I also played this brilliantly orchestrated Major Vonreg deck that absolutely buried me with its efficiency. That deck was fun, but it was brutal to sit across from. It would have been great to have watched. I had a good time being beat down by it, but it was tough. I got to give, that one worked so well that I need to give a shout out and some kudos to Team Deep Dive Games out of St. Mary's, Georgia. I met one of your players out in Vegas at the Galactic, and it was good to meet more of you in Fruit Cove, Florida at the PQ. You guys did a great job with that Vonreg build. That was, again, that was intense. So when you break down the numbers, let's talk about the specific meta that punished my Bo-Katan swap so hard. Number one for me was the Luke builds. Totally didn't see it coming, right? The Luke builds in the space arena, they're just mathematically brutal against an aggressive low health unit. And that's what I went in with. So every time Luke deploys or attacks, he's going to hit that pop, that ping. And my small attackers, well, they were just getting knocked off the map time and time again. and I wasn't able to stabilize and build up that mass I needed. And this, of course, on the other side of the table, allowed Luke to stabilize early, allowed him to keep me shut down totally on the map with my low cost, low health units and just run the board on me. I also got outpaced by Major Vonreg. That one, I went in excited to play, but the efficiency of that Vonreg deck was brutal to go up against, right? I was facing this pilot. The opponent was just redlining the aggression with a hyper efficient first order Imperial deck and just kept punching that board so hard and so quick with that synergy that I could never build up the multi-card synergy I needed to get those Mandos built up to that presence that to even allow me to put Bo-Katan on the table. And then speaking of Bo-Katan, let's just talk about the errors in my own deck, right? That last minute trade-off, it really relied on me building up that space arena and that ground arena and then pumping the floor with Mandalorians so that I could deploy Bo-Katan. And when I was going up against Luke and his pings, when I was going up against Vonreg and that synergy and aggression that totally outpaced my curve, I just never hit that critical unit threshold. And, you know, I left the Akbar card in the deck that allowed me to build that 5-cost space unit pool out of the top 10 cards, which was great. But on its own, with those low-cost units, I never reached the point I needed, the critical mass, to allow my deck to do what I had built it to do. So that was a bummer, right? A bit of a letdown there, but it's what happens when you build new decks, when you're homebrewing, and certainly when you make any last-minute trades as you're heading into the PQ. So I'm good for it, though. I'm here for the good time. I am here for the community, and the wins are always great when you can get them. But in this instance, a good time was had by all, particularly those that faced off against me. So I will continue to try out new ideas. I will continue to run fun decks. It's just who I am. And I'm going to keep building quirky combos to see what I can do with them on the mat. You know, sometimes you soar and, well, sometimes you crash and burn. Ladies and gentlemen, break out those fire extinguishers because this ship went down hard and it is still smoldering. So it's all right. It's all good. I met some great people. I had some amazing pizza between rounds at Moondog Pie House, and big shout out to the crew at Moondog. They had other customers in there. We come blowing in like, how fast can you get us some pie? I've got maybe 10 to 15 minutes before the next round sets, and they accommodated, and the pie was amazing. So hope to go back to Moondog Pie House at some time and we can sit down and actually enjoy that pizza instead of burning our rooftops with it. It was awesome. And, you know, in the end, right, I spent the Saturday slinging cardboard with my fellow pilot, Silver Sorcerer, and that, my friends, is never a bad way to spend the day. So the big takeaway here for your own deck building: always be sure to calculate that recovery math against both sides of the spectrum, right? If your deck runs into a wall of Luke Skywalker pings, can you punch through that without losing the board advantage? And of course, if you run into a high-octane Vonreg build, can you stabilize before turn 4? I thought I could, and I didn't. But lesson learned, and that's the beauty of traveling to these events. So speaking of traveling to tournaments and events and packing up experimental decks and keeping your cards completely protected no matter what happens on the match slip, let's go ahead and break away from the damage counters and look at the gear that keeps our collections road ready. We're going to open up the Analog Archive. In the Analog Archive, we step away from the deck math and tournament slips to look at the physical craft, right? The storage gear, the tokens, the material hardware that makes traveling with our cards such a joy. And today I want to talk about a piece of tournament hardware that was absolutely everywhere at the PQ in Florida, and I saw plenty of them on tables in Las Vegas. I'm talking about the Gamegenic Star Wars Unlimited Double Deck Pod. And what I was really drawn to specifically was that Ashes of Empire set with the Star Destroyer edition. These Star Destroyers looked amazing on that box. Man, I was impressed, and eventually I'm going to have to get one of these. So full disclosure, I don't actually own one of these deck pods yet, so I tend to like to review things that I own. This isn't something I own, but I ran into enough of them. I talked to people about them. People passed them over, let me operate them. They're slick. They look good, and they seem very functional. You can't deny it when you see them broken out on the play mat there. So what makes these so good for tournament road trips is really how Gamegenic built them around the anatomy of a SWU deck, right? So this particular deck pod's going to hold 2 full decks, right? Complete. Double sleeve, 60 card decks, and dedicated bays. So you got your 10 card sideboard, you've got your 50 card deck, you are good to go. You got the clear slide card cases for the leaders and bases right on the exterior edges, so you don't have to open that box up to identify the list. Now, one caveat here in messing with these and owning my own Gamegenic deck box, there is this precarious balance between the ease at which those leaders will slide out with the card case attached and stay in, right, when you're traveling. You want it to be, you want it to not be so easy to take out that it falls out during travel, but you also don't want to struggle with it on the tournament floor. And I do tend, the grip is pretty solid on those. So Gamegenic, if you're listening, you might ease it up just a fraction, dial that knob back. The pull-out storage trays for the tokens, dice, and damage counters comes with 2 of them, which is really nice as well. They're right there on the bottom. If you're like me, you're going to be replacing those with a 3D printed variant to hold those tokens in place. And the mix and match approach of it, right? So I think this was really cool, and something that I saw at PQ down in Florida and at the Galactic down in Vegas, right? It's these magnetic flaps that tap onto the base holders, and what I saw people doing at both sets was swapping the tops out for different bays, and even pulling out those lower trays and swapping those around as well. So you got some nice color variants there and some customization that made it your own. So check those out if you have a chance. If there's something you love about them, let me know. If there's something that's not working for you, let me know. I do plan on ordering one soon and adding that to my own setup. It's that level of, you know, that tactile customization and that modular approach. So I don't know if it was planned or if it's just something that we as players developed, but it keeps the hobby satisfying, right? So if you've been eyeballing one in your travel setup for the next qualifier, I think these are worth checking out. Let me know. And that, fellow pilots, brings our flight plan for episode 10 to a close. 10 episodes, hard to believe. I appreciate y'all flying with me, sitting down at the table and listening to this cardboard talk. So even with a rough match record down at Gamers-Corps and getting out on the road, testing experimental builds, meeting players like Sean from 2 to Base, and celebrating other players that we've met in the community like Tom Sco at the Berlin Sector Qualifier, all of that comes together and reminds me of why we do this week after week. So don't forget to send your transmissions in for flight logs for episode 11. We'll be sure to give you a big shout out on the show. And also don't forget that I made that last minute swap. I almost forgot myself. So we changed it up to no longer be focused on the why are you playing these upper tier games, but tell us about your favorite world in Star Wars. Talk about it, tell us why, and then what I would really like to see is if that lore translates into the core, talk to us about your base setup and the strategy tied behind it. Drop your thoughts across our Spotify Q&A, YouTube comments, or tag us on TikTok over at Track and Vector. Help keep our grassroots broadcast growing. Now, if today's debrief gave you a laugh and certainly or fresh deck building insight, do us a favor, right? Share that episode with a friend in your local shop's Discord server. Until then, keep your collection safe, protect those card edges, keep your eyes locked on the tracking vector. I'm Taco Pete, signing off. Hope to see you at the table soon.